All right, welcome everybody to our CMO Roundtable focused on the pipeline problem. My name is Matt Hines. I'm the founder president of Hines Marketing. Very excited to be here today to moderate this amazing panel. And today we're going to talk about the pipeline problem and specifically the challenges that CMOs face when it comes to pipeline generation in 2024. You think about all the different things that are roadblocks and challenges for us today. We've got changing markets, reduced budgets, headcount changes, who owns the BDRs, what is AI doing, so many different variables and challenges, and we've got an amazing panel here to walk us through. So I got a bunch of questions, but I first want to make sure we introduce our panel today. We're very excited to have Jim Sinai. He's the CMO of Vanilla here. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
We've got Maura Rivera, CMO of Qualified. Maura, thank you for this overall event, and thank you for doing this event as well.
Thank you, Matt.
Last but not least, Oana Manolache. How did I do on that name, first of all?
Close enough. Thanks, Matt.
All right. You're Oana from now on. She is the founder and CEO of Sequel.io. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. And Jim, I think we're going to start with you. I'm not going to call you the elder statesman of this panel, but you've already served a very distinguished career as a marketing leader. And I'm sure the idea of pipeline for marketing has evolved quite a bit in your time in marketing overall, specifically your time as a marketing leader. Talk about where it's come from, where it is today, and what are some of the key elements of the change that you've seen that make pipeline relevant and vital as a marketing function.
Thanks, Matt. I mean, as far as I go back my days of marketing, the number one metric that we always looked at was and has been pipeline. I grew up in enterprise SaaS, and all the other metrics just were secondary. And I think a lot of that is because at the leadership level, the only thing that matters is, are you hitting your numbers? And the only way to know if you have a shot at hitting your numbers is by looking at pipeline. And I don't know where I heard this, but I love it. Pipeline is oxygen. And if you don't have oxygen in the room, you can't breathe, you can't do what you need to do. And so the discipline of pipeline management is really something that I saw as a place where marketers can be more strategic and show up with their revenue counterparts in a way that feels more, board level, to be frank. And candidly, it's what we're all playing for. We're playing for the growth and for the win. And so if you can't speak the language of open pipeline, pipe gen, net pipeline, pipe velocity, all those kind of metrics, then you're sort of left on the outside. And that's where I feel like where marketers, especially marketing leaders, get boxed out of conversations because they don't know how to talk about the overall mechanics of creating revenue.
So you're really talking about sort of speaking the language of the business and the language of sort of go-to-market, not just the language of marketing, and not just using our acronyms, but really speaking. I've heard some people say, like, if my language and my acronyms can match what the CFO already uses and understands, I'm in a much better spot to be perceived as someone who understands and is focused on the business.
Yeah.
Maura, I want to ask you, relative to running this program and the conversations you're having, I mean, you're seeing and hearing from a lot of people in different marketing functions. What bubbles up in your head around the biggest challenges marketers are facing right now in terms of pipeline generation?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to hundreds of marketers over the last few years of this program, and it's a hard time to be a CMO. I think that everybody's saying the same thing. Budgets are smaller, teams are smaller, targets are higher, and how do I efficiently hit my pipeline targets? I think everybody's feeling that. I feel like there's this hope that things are starting to get a little softer. Things are starting to get a little bit better. We're kind of emerging from what was a pretty hard year and a half or 2 years. So I think that's the pain everybody's feeling. Everybody kind of has emerged from that and is thinking about, how do I spend efficiently and make sure that I'm being efficient with my investments? There's been this theme of, like, I think a gut reaction 18 months ago was to turn off a lot of your brand investments and turn off a lot of things that you couldn't quantify or measure, but that hurts you long term. So I think everybody's trying to figure out the right mix of marketing investments and kind of the brand versus demand. And then another major theme is just focusing on pipeline quality. Like, you can give all the first meetings in the world to your sales team, but if they're not materializing, if they're not maturing through the sales cycle, then what's the point? So I think, how do you hit your targets? How do you spend efficiently and smartly? And how do you generate that quality pipeline to keep your sales team happy? I think it's been a trying time for sales and marketing teams. The tension has probably been a little bit higher just to make sure that everybody's satisfied. But those are the themes in every CMO panel we have, every Pipeline Summit discussion we have. And I think everybody's kind of looking to each other to try and navigate all of those topics.
I mean, if these are trying times for marketing leaders and for sales and marketing teams, Oana, founder, CEO, like you have everything on your shoulders, right? And so, like, you know, as the leader of a business through times like this, I heard someone that recently described that as chewing glass. And as a founder myself, I'm like, that's pretty damn close.
No, thanks.
Think about the marketing role as part of pipeline generation. What's worked for you with SQL, and what do you see marketing's role there relative to all the other groups of the organization that have their own role in generating pipeline and revenue?
Yeah, I think that in my case, I'm the founder and CEO, but at heart, I'm also a marketer. I've been a marketer for 15 years before I started the company. So I'm somehow uniquely positioned to understand the role of marketing versus, kind of cutting from it. We actually invested in it, but we built a different type of investment in marketing. It had to be measurable and still keep it innovative and experiential. A big thing for me was obviously when 2023 hit with all the economic downturn and all the uncertainties, I actually went to my team and I made all the kind of, impact and results and goals that I usually present to the board. I made it public to my entire company. Every single person in my company should know what we're presenting to the board, where we're at. And it was incredible because every single person in the company has taken seriously the investments that we're making, and we started working together towards a common goal. Now, everybody in the organization's common goal is revenue. Everybody's tied to revenue, including engineering, which is counterintuitive, but we should be building features and we should be building product that impacts our customers' lives, that brings more value, hence brings more revenue, or makes our customers be more successful. And the way I structured a sales and marketing team, I've come from a background of marketing and sales being in siloed, and it was not the right way to work. And now I don't have a sales or a marketing or product marketing team. I have a go-to-market team. And then out of the go-to-market team, our main goal is revenue. And then there's different leaders of projects or initiatives that have sub-goals that ultimately working together, we're reaching our common goal going to the top. And that's proven for us to work so much better instead of having the specific labels of marketing should bring top of funnel, but marketing should also influence pipeline, should also build, kind of give insight into product. So the transparency, bringing, the board's goals into the team, and also pointing the entire organization towards a common goal with their individual kind of success metrics have been really good for us.
I mean, to have someone who understands and has empathy for the marketing role to be able to sort of organize that. I mean, I already see Maura and Jim sort of nodding their heads, thinking about sort of.
We both work for marketing CEOs, which I think makes our jobs infinitely better because we speak the same language. When we come to them and say, "Hey, I have an idea that I think is going to unlock growth," they listen in and they understand how marketing can be that lever. They're not pushing back.
Yeah, I think it's unique and it's special. And Jim, I think back to you, the adjustments you've had to make along the way, especially, Maura kind of talked about just how hard it's been to sell and to market in the last year and a half or so. And it's never easy. There's always something that's trying to sort of neuter your ability to drive revenue. But like, what are things that have worked for you and your team in the last 12 plus months to make adjustments to be more efficient at driving more predictable pipeline in your organization?
Yeah, so I think, Vanilla is a smaller growing organization. It's one of the smaller teams I've led, but that also has lent a lot of nimbleness to our ability to react. We made a very conscious decision to lean into a bunch of brand last year. And the reason being is that we knew that if we wanted people showing up to talk to us, we wanted them sort of pre-qualified by what our brand stood for and what we could do for them. And so we spent a lot of time making sure our messaging articulated the right problems to the right people, all the way down to the to the Google ads, so we weren't bringing in inefficient leads into the system. And, trying to like make sure even to the end where our ads were explicitly calling out what we did and did not do in Google. And so a lot of that, I think, helps so that the stuff that we do bring in has a higher likelihood of matriculating into pipeline and ultimately revenue. So brand's been a huge differentiator. And then the other thing nested in there is really making sure there's a tight coupling with the BDRs. And I think that for anyone that works in a sales-led software business, the BDR army is sort of, you have to think of them as part of the marketing team, and even if they're not, and you have to enroll them in understanding the marketing strategy, because then they understand how to prioritize what to do and also how to help you understand what messages and what things are working and not working.
Jimmy, you brought up there towards the end sort of the BDR army, and sometimes work for sales, sometimes works for marketing, and just back to what you were sharing, what Oana was sharing around this sort of common go-to-market team. It almost doesn't matter as if you have sort of continuity around the jobs to be done, right? And if you have some common understanding of like who needs to do what, and being in this as like a team sport. Maura, I'd be curious to hear your perspective at Qualified. How do you think about that team sport? How do you think about marketing's role in conjunction with the broader efforts across the organization that collectively, through a body of work, are driving?
Yeah, I mean, the way it works at Qualified is we basically have our marketing organization and our sales organization. But I love your idea of like a fully aligned go-to-market motion. We try and achieve that as much as we can, even though we kind of have different dotted lines in the org structure. Our BDR team sits under our revenue team, so under our sales organization, but I see them as an extension of our marketing team, our entire SDR and BDR team, inbound and outbound team. I think one thing that's been really important for us is working towards one target. When we were first kind of growing up as an organization, we had too many targets floating around. We had our inbound targets and our outbound targets, and it simply wasn't working. We were finding that tension of arguing for who sourced certain pipeline. And so we pivoted to do one target, and we're really focused on a stage 2, which to us represents like quality pipeline target across the entire organization. One thing that we also do is we do a pipeline council every single Friday, and the marketing leaders, the sales leaders, and the SDR and BDRs are all there. And during that meeting, it's every Friday at noon, rain or shine. We look over status. How are we progressing, quarter to date, month to date? We look at what's working. We look at what's not working. If we're trending behind, what are our gap plans? We celebrate the wins. So we celebrate this SDR had a great play this week, or this BDR had a great play this week. And so although we're technically separate kind of teams, the pipeline council and working towards that one target, those have been critical to us, because you need both, right? And especially in this world of account-based marketing, it all works together. Hopefully somebody sees an advertisement and comes to an event and then opens an outbound email and then comes to the website and then converts. And if those two teams aren't working together, everything breaks. So I think you have to have kind of those functions in place to connect the teams.
I'm going to want to come back to you more if we have time to talk a little bit about sort of change management and sort of culture management as part of that. Because I think it's one thing to have a vision for it. It's another thing to have a playbook, but then to get people to buy into it and really sort of lean into that collective mentality. That's a whole other thing and is not trivial. And I did want to ask you first the question. I feel like it's actually safe to say we're both at the bleeding edge and at the very early stages of AI adoption into our go-to-market motions. It's moving so quickly, and there's such a wide disparity of how different companies are incorporating it and leveraging. Would love to hear how you are thinking about AI and sort of other advanced technologies and opportunities as part of your pipeline development process at SQL.
Yeah, AI has been so fascinating. And the way I tell my team is that AI will not replace anyone in the team, but it will replace people who are not using AI. Because it's sometimes someone would come to me like, oh, we've done all of this. Like, did you use AI? And they would feel a little bit scared to say yes, so that they don't feel like they cheated. But actually, I celebrate the use of AI. That means you're working smarter. You're making the most of the technologies. And to have a bit of a continuation from what Maura said is, right now buyers are so much more sophisticated, right? They do so much more research. They consume so much more content. That's why it's so hard to put, a sale or an SQL or an MQL in the hands of marketing or sales or SDR, because chances are that every single person in that go-to-market team has touched the prospect before they even booked a call with sales. And we're looking at the entire journey and we're thinking, how can we use AI from a marketing perspective to either automate or to enhance? Automation comes where there's repetitive motion. So are we doing something more than 2 times, 3 times? Then can we use AI for that? For example, when customers are asking questions about, things that are in our help center articles, like can we have a chat on our website that answers those questions so much faster, so it gives them content so much faster? So that's kind of a repetitive motion where we've put AI to it, and it was amazing. And then obviously we'll top up with things where we feel like we can kind of get involved in it. The second thing is elevation. The one thing that I will never replace, like humans with AI, is original thought and original content. One thing that I don't like my team see them do is like, oh, give me a blog post about the importance of AI in the world. I think that original content is so important. So that what we do at SQL, we build original content. We have something called the Game Changers, where we bring experts and talk about incredible topics and ideas. And we use AI to repurpose original content into different forms, like short video, long written articles, short blog posts, all kinds of other things. So the marketing AI is still getting elevated, and we give more content to our customers and prospects, but we keep that originality within the team.
Can I just build on this AI story? Because I think there's another thread here that's really important for pipeline, which is AI, I think, will make the SDR, the BDR jobs a lot easier. At least I'm hoping so. I'm betting on it. But I think from the content teams, they're looking at this and saying, how am I going to stand out in a sea of content that's going to get flooded onto the web, right? And this goes back to one, investments in brand, making sure you have a brand that's differentiated and stands for something. But this is also another opportunity for your BDRs to be more human and to really lean into places where BDRs can be human. So how are you getting them to show up on LinkedIn more? How are you getting BDRs to think about creating more video, self-created video, et cetera? And I think that, it's a scary time because it's going to change a lot of workflows, but it's also like a time where marketers are sort of more important than ever, because it'll be clear the companies that have invested in great marketing won't ever look like they're using AI.
Yeah. I mean, here's what I know, guys. I mean, like, AI is going to make more content faster, easier, cheaper. None of those solve the problems we have in marketing. They may make it worse, right? Like, you're whether you are the buyer or whether you think about your buyer, they have the same amount of minutes, if not fewer, in their days to get things done. And look, until robots sell to robots, which might be in our future, I think providing that humanity really separates out the great messages from others. I know we got just a few minutes left. Time's going by so fast. Thank you all so much for your insight so far. Maura, I did want to get back to you and ask that question around culture change.
Oh, yeah.
Around managing the culture across a team that maybe, historically, look, let's not pretend that there's baggage and scar tissue that didn't exist, right? From teams fighting for credit over time. How do you address that, but get through it and create a real team mentality that we win together moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit of a smaller company, like compared to the Salesforces or the giants out there. So I would say changing targets, changing kind of how we operate is we can be a little bit more nimble, like Jim said, than if you're at a giant company or change management. I've worked at really big companies. It's really, really hard. I think the biggest thing is, and one thing that our CEO challenges me with all the time is, what would we do if we started the company today? Because it's easy sometimes to say, we're going to confuse people, or how do we not scare folks if we're changing too quickly? And he always challenges me to say, start fresh, think big. If we started the company today, what is the process we would roll out? We have to adapt or else we'll get left behind. So I think as a leader, you have to have that mentality that change is okay. And then you have to be willing to bring people along for the ride. So it's going to take some time for people to kind of acclimate. We also always say, like, by the time you're sick of saying it, people are just getting used to hearing it. So you have to always over communicate, and internal communications is just as important as external communications when you're running a business. So constantly communicating, and then I think celebrating the folks who are adapting and who are changing and who are seeing success with that. So I mentioned our pipeline council earlier. We do these things called plays of the week. And we're like, look at Faye. She had this awesome interaction. She took this new approach. She generated S2 pipeline. Oh my gosh, it just closed last week or whatever. So celebrating the change makers, the folks that are out there doing things differently so that their peers want to be like them. I think that's important. But you always have to be, I think I didn't anticipate as a marketing leader how much of my attention would go into internal communication and rallying the team, but it's paramount.
And I always, to just add to that, I always find when things aren't going well, it's because we haven't communicated internally well. Like, it's not that we're not doing the marketing well, it's we're not marketing the marketing well.
Mm-hmm. And harnessing the power of the team as well. It feels like it can create such a big impact into whatever marketing initiative that you're running.
Mm-hmm. So, somewhat relative to that, Oana, I have a follow-up question for you as sort of like a marketer, but as the founder on the call today. Not everyone in the organization thinks they know how to run engineering. Not everybody really knows how to run a balance sheet and finance, but everyone in the organization thinks they know marketing. And when things are tight, when things are tough, lots of new ideas bubble up, which quite honestly is fantastic. Like, that's part of the team spirit mentality. But it could be frustrating, right, for a marketing team that's like, we are doing our best here, and we don't need like the rest of the chickens to contribute and think they know our business. How do you, as a founder, encourage ideas, innovation, creativity across the board, yet give your marketing team and your marketing leaders clarity and the encouragement to do what they know how to do best?
Yes, you are very much spot on that. It is a very interesting way to encourage people to still share ideas. One of our greatest marketing ideas came from an engineer who thought, it's like, wouldn't it be great to do this? And we're like, yeah, that'd be great. So everybody can have a great idea, even though you're not a marketer. So we want to foster that culture of sharing interesting ideas. Some people are seeing it with fresh eyes because we live in it. And, it's a little bit harder to see things that are outside of the box. Yet you don't want the marketing team to be running and building every single idea there is out there. We're also, similar to what Maura and Jim were mentioning, we're also a company small enough to be able to move really, really fast. So what we do, we have monthly goal setting. Obviously, we know for the year, for the quarter, but we have monthly goal setting where we're also deciding on initiatives that we're focusing on, either new initiatives or obviously continuing the ones that are strategies. And we have this idea of experimentation culture. Nothing is a strategy. So basically, a successful experiment becomes a strategy. Nothing is a strategy from the beginning. Even if you're saying, I'm going to be running like a webinar strategy, you're not. You're going to be running it an experiment if you've never done it before and have certain results from it. So what we do as a marketing team, we sit together and we see what strategies are working the best. We double down on those if indeed are great investments, and we map them out to revenue and impact on the business. And then we're looking at experiments. What experiments can we be running this month? And then we literally take ideas from everyone in the team. We look at all of those ideas, and then we have a framework that we build every experiment on. There is a budget, there's kind of success criteria, impact on the business, and we take the ones that have the highest impact. And the way we say it is that an experiment cannot fail. The only way it fails if you don't know if it worked or it didn't. So this way we nurture that sharing of ideas from the rest of the team, but really let it up to the marketing leaders to decide what are strategies and what are certain experiments that we want to be running. Because at the same time, while we're cutting a lot of, budgets generally as a tech industry, we have to keep innovating. We have to invest in new, interesting ideas. Otherwise, we're all going to be doing the same old, and we're not going to be growing. So keeping that balance has been working pretty well for us in the past year.
Yep. We have just a minute left, Jim. I have a final question for you. It's super unfair to ask this with a minute. Brand versus demand. How do you think about the right balance of that moving forward? I think we've over-rotated maybe to a little more of demand in tighter times, but what's your strategy? What's your recommended way to balance brand and demand moving.
Oh, in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the short answer is think about them together and holistically. And honestly, like if I were to try and go into my LinkedIn spend and say, well, this dollar is demand dollar and this dollar is demand dollar, I don't think I could do it. So I just look at it together as like, I need to pay money to create awareness and demand together. And the total spend translates into both brand awareness, traffic growth to the website, follower growth on LinkedIn, but also to the bottom line, and just try to pay attention to what the total spend is to pipeline. So we don't try and get too granular because otherwise we're just going down a rabbit hole.
Oh, you certainly are. You absolutely are. I mean, one of the things I tell CFOs all the time is like, listen, if you want to spend a lot less on demand 2 years from now, spend a lot more on brand today. Because that is what that balance is going to give you: a healthier business, more equity, more predictable pipeline. It's going to help make those pipeline challenges a little easier with more of that investment now. Well, guys,
but even spend, I mean, I'll just leave it with even spend you think you're spending on demand, it ends up as brand. So like, how do you even do that?
Yeah, you're right. We could spend a whole nother 25 minutes just on this question. We didn't even get to my concerns about your fantasy baseball team for the year, but we'll do that at another time. Guys, it's been amazing. Maura, Jim, Oana, thank you so much for being part of this panel, for being open, honest, candid with your answers. Thank you to Qualified again for this amazing event. I think we solved a few pipeline problems today, guys. So thanks, Jim, and we'll see y'all next time.